Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my reading and review of The Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal, if I can say the word, .com. And support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in doing these shows, and there are different ways to do that. Either through the Patreon, where you can sign up for $1 a month to get all the extra content there, or through the merchandise store to get shirts and sling bag and an apron, all these different things with amazing designs from friends of the show. So, I believe that covers everything. A few things I always like to say before I start reading this book that I'm reading for these shows. Um, First of all, this is the ideas in this book and then the words in this book that I'm reading. They are from the author, Charles Fort, not myself. So there may be things that he says in the book that you and or I do not agree with. So just be aware of that. And also, uh, excuse me, there will be things that he talks about that seemed mysterious at the time that the book was written and released, which is about 100 years ago, literally. And but that maybe have been explained since then by science. So if he's talking about anything that seems like it doesn't make sense for it to seem so mysterious to him, that's probably why. Also, this is not an audiobook recording. There is no editing here, and so you will hear me make mistakes. There's one already. Uh, as I'm reading the book, because of just how difficult it is to read books and out loud and talk at the same time and all those things. Also, because there will be words in there that are in other languages, words in their names, and Fort has his own style of writing as well. So he likes to sort of make new words or make up words sometimes, I believe. So all these things are important as I go through this, and so I always try to let y'all know when I start, so you know what to expect. But thank you all for being here and listening in. And I do have one quick announcement. I made it in the Discord earlier today as I'm recording this. I will be restarting my series on haunted places in the U.S. Uh, just whenever I can do the research, I will then record a couple episodes. And so every once in a while, instead of there being two of these review shows of the Book of the Damned in a week's schedule shows, there will be two of those haunted places in the U.S. shows instead. It won't be every week. It'll just be whenever it works out after I've done the research and then done the recording of a couple of those shows. So, and if you want to listen to the previous shows in that series, they are in the archive. They are in the website, and so you can go back and listen to those along with all the other shows to get caught up. Or you can just start with wherever I'm at now, which is actually in Colorado. So we'll be getting back to that. Um, I plan on recording a couple of those shows soon. I'm not going to say when because the show isn't even going to be out right away because, uh, yeah, time is weird and I'm stockpiling shows whenever possible. So now that I think about it, those haunted places in the U.S. shows, they will probably come out before this show even comes out. So I should probably make the announcement on um, the regular shows that will come out sooner as well, and I will. Doing a show is a fun thing, but when you're saving shows, it can get interesting time wise. So anyway, let's get back to this book here, and we're in the middle of a section about falling stones and uh, metals, meteorite, uh, things that were written off as meteorites, and just all these kinds of things. So that's where we're at right now in this book. And I think I need to readjust my chair a little bit. There we go. Okay. So, continuing on, Dr. Bodding, Bodding, argued with the natives of the Santal Perganas, India, I'm probably saying that wrong, who said that cut and shaped stones had fallen from the sky, some of them lodging in tree trunks. Dr. Bodding, with orthodox notions of velocity of falling bodies, having missed, I suppose, some of the notes I have upon large hailstones, which for size have fallen with astonishingly low velocity, argued that anything falling from the sky would be smashed to atoms. He accepts that objects of work stone have been found in tree trunks, but he explains that the Santals often steal trees, but do not chop them down in the usual way because that would be to make too much noise. They insert stone wedges and hammer them instead. Then, if they should be caught, wedges would not be the evidence against them that axes would be. Okay. Or that a scientific man can't be desperate and reasonable too. Or that a pickpocket, for instance, is safe, though caught with his hand in one's pocket. If he's gloved, say, because no one court in the land would regard a gloved hand in the same way in which a bare hand would be regarded. And again, he's sort of using metaphors there. That there's nothing but intermediateness to the rational and the preposterous, that this status of our own ratiocinations, okay, ratiocinations, not sure, is perceptible, wherein they are upon the unfamiliar. Dr. Bodding collected 50 of these shaped stones said to have fallen from the sky in the course of many years. He says that the Santals are a highly developed race and for ages have not used stone implements, except in this one nefarious convenience to him. All explanations are localizations. They fade away before the universal. It is difficult to express that black rains in England do not originate in the smoke of factories. Less difficult to express that black rains of South Africa do not. We utter little stress upon the absurdity of Dr. Bodding's explanation, because if anything's absurd, everything's absurd, or rather has in it some degree or aspect of absurdity, and we've never had experience with any state except something somewhere between ultimate absurdity and final reasonableness. Our acceptance is that Dr. Bodding's elaborate explanation does not apply to cut stone objects found in tree trunks in other lands. We accept that, for the general, a local explanation is inadequate. As to thunderstones, not said to have fallen luminously and not said to have been found sticking in in trees, we are told by faithful hypnotics that astonished rustics come upon prehistoric axes that have been washed into sight by rains, and jump to the conclusion that the things have fallen from the sky. But rustics come upon many prehistoric things: scrapers, pottery, knives, hammers. We have no record of rusticity coming upon old pottery after a rain, reporting the fall of a bowl from the sky. I do like that. Uh, just now, my own acceptance is that wedge-shaped stone objects formed by means similar to human workmanship have often fallen from the sky. Maybe there are messages upon them. My acceptance is that they have been called axes to discredit them, or the more familiar term, the higher the incongruity with vague concepts of the vast, remote, tremendous unknown. Can't get my chair in the right position here. Anyway, sorry about that. In Notes and Queries 2-8-92, a writer says that he had a thunderstone which he had brought from Jamaica. The description is of a wedge-shaped object, not of an axe. In quotation marks, it shows no mark of having been attached to a handle. In quotation marks. Of 10 thunderstones figured upon different pages in Blankenberg's book, that's another researcher, 9 show no sign of ever having been attached to a handle. 1 is perforated. But in a report by Dr. C. Lehmans, director of the Leiden Museum of Antiquities, objects said by the Japanese to have fallen from the sky are alluded to throughout as wedges. In the Archaeologic Journal 11-118, and a paper upon the thunderstones of Java, the objects are called wedges and not axes. Our notion is that rustics and savages call wedge-shaped objects that fall from the sky axes, that scientific men, when it suits their purposes, can resist temptations to prolixity, prolixity, and pedantry, and adopt the simple, that they can be intelligible when derisive, all of which lands us in a confusion, worse, I think, than we were in before we so satisfactorily emerged from the distresses of butter and blood and ink and paper and punk and silk. Now it's cannonballs and axes and discs. If a lapstone be a disc, it's a flat stone at any rate. He's talking about other objects that have fallen there as well. A great many scientists are good impressionists. They snub the impertinence of details. Had he been of a coarse, grubbing nature, I think Dr. Bodding could never have so simply and beautifully explained the occurrence of stone wedges in tree trunks. But to a realist, the story would be something like this. A man who needed a tree in a land of jungles, where, for some unknown reason, everyone's very selfish with his trees, conceives that hammering stone wedges makes less noise than does the chopping of wood. He and his he and his descendants, in a course of many years, cut down trees with wedges and escape penalty, because it never occurs to a prosecutor that the head of an axe is a wedge. The story is like every other attempted positivism, beautiful and complete, until we see what it excludes or disregards, whereupon it becomes the ugly and incomplete, but not absolutely, because there is probably something of what is called foundation for it. Perhaps a mentally incomplete Santo did once do something of the kind. Story told to Dr. Bodding in the usual scientific way, he makes a dogma of an aberration. Or we did have to utter a little stress upon this matter, after all. They're so hairy and attractive, these scientists of the 19th century. We feel the zeal of a Sitting Bull when we think of their scalps. Okay. We shall have to have an expression of our own upon this confusing subject. We have expressions. We don't call them explanations. We've discarded explanations with beliefs. Though everyone who scalps is, in the oneness of allness, himself likely to be scalped, there is such a discourtesy to an enemy as the wearing of wigs. Again, more, yeah. Anyway, cannonballs and wedges, and what may they mean? Bombardments of this earth, attempts to communicate, or visitors to this earth long ago, explorers from the moon, taking back with them, as curiosities perhaps, implements of this earth's prehistoric inhabitants. A wreck, a cargo of such things held for ages in suspension in the Super Sargasso Sea, falling or shaken down occasionally by storms. But by preponderance of description, we cannot accept that thunderstones ever were attached to handles, or are prehistoric axes. As to attempts to communicate with this earth by means of wedge-shaped objects, especially adapted to the penetration of vast gelatinous areas spread around this earth, in the Irish Academy, Royal Irish Academy, I believe it might be processions or proceedings of the Royal Irish Academy, 9-337, there is an account of a stone wedge that fell from the sky near Cashel, Tipperary, August 2nd, 1865. The phenomenon is not questioned, but the orthodox preference is to call it not axe-like nor wedge-shaped, but pyramidal. For data of other pyramidal stones said to have fallen from the sky, see the British Association, not sure what the first abbreviation is supposed to be, 1861-34. One fell at Sagawali, India, March 6th, 1853. Of the object that fell at Cashel, Dr. Houghton says in the proceedings, okay, that's what it is, in quotation marks, a singular feature is observable in this stone that I have never seen in any other. The rounded edges of the pyramid are sharply marked by lines on the black crust, as perfect as if made by a ruler, in quotation marks. So this is amazing. This is pyramid-shaped stones. Dr. Houghton's idea is that the marks may have been made by some, in quotation marks, some peculiar tension in the cooling, in quotation marks. It must have been very peculiar, if in all aerolites, not wedge-shaped, no such phenomenon had ever been observed. It merges away with one or two instances known, after Dr. Houghton's time, of seeming stratification in meteorites. Stratification in meteorites, however, is denied by the faithful. I begin to suspect something else. A whopper is coming. Later, it will be as reasonable by familiarity as anything else ever said. If someone should study the stone of Cashel, as Champollion studied the Rosetta Stone, he might, or rather would inevitably, find meaning in those lines and translate them into English. Nevertheless, I begin to suspect something else, something more subtle and esoteric than graving characters upon stones that have fallen from the sky in attempts to communicate. Here, okay. Where's my at? I lost my spot. The notion that other worlds are attempting to communicate with this world is widespread. My own notion is that it is not attempt at all, that it was achievement centuries ago. I should like to send out a report that a thunderstone had fallen, say, somewhere in New Hampshire, and keep track of every person who came to examine that stone, trace down his affiliation, keep track of him, then send out report that a thunderstone had fallen at Stockholm, say. Would one of the persons who had gone to New Hampshire be met again in Stockholm? But what if he had no anthropological, lapidarian, or meteorological affiliations, but did belong to a secret society? It is only a dawning credulity. That's a hard word to say. And we're going to stop it there because the next paragraph actually goes on to the next page, so I have no idea how long it is. So here we're getting into new shapes of objects that have apparently fallen, pyramid-shaped stones with lines on them. And I really do find the idea of communication between outside sources, whoever they may be, and this world to be fascinating. And again, just to get back to this idea that Fort has, is that whatever is out there beyond Earth, it's not all of the same consistency. And so things, weird things happen out there and come from out there. So again, thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.